Hello and welcome to a stable episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us today, I'm extremely excited to bring you James Weihoneg to the show. James comes to us all the way from Brisbane, Australia, and he's been working on some exciting stuff. In Australia, they have a segment of finishing trade that only does sanding, if you can believe that. James has been involved with sanding specifically for over 10 years, and that has enabled him to really dig in and research sanding in a unique way. And because of that experience, he's developed some extremely interesting new products. At least I think they're interesting. I hope that you do too. And they are specifically designed to make your next sanding day way easier.
And I just, but the thing is that I never wanted to release anything that wasn't valuable. Like I understood that there was the value, you needed the value. And I was listening to this guy named Alex Samosi, and he said, on a podcast, and he said, you need to learn a skill and then release something in that profession. I'm like, man, I've been sanding for 10 years.
Oh.
And we always use different tools, and we modified different tools to make sanding easier, but nothing was quite right. Like different sanders would use different tools, and I've seen them. And
yeah.
I've tried them all. Then I tried this thing called the stealth sander, and I started modifying that. And I'm like, it's just not quite right. How about I try and create something myself? And I was looking at a different manufacturing process. I went, okay, I can bend the metal. I'm like, that's when you bend it, it creates like this curve in it. If you want it thick enough, if you were to go like a 3 or 4 mil to make it thick, when you bend it, it has a curve. And that doesn't get into the internal. And I started experimenting with different tips, and then I realized the manufacturing of bending metal is expensive. I would have to charge too much. And I went, what if I get an injection mold?
I should probably mention that his company is called Morph Sanding Solutions. We talk a lot about marketing and James's path down various avenues, working on different ventures, but also how he's launching this idea and getting one hell of a response, achieving 10,000 in sales in the first 6 weeks. We talk about that and a whole lot more. Hold on to your seats because I'm excited for this coming November. Huge shout out to CSR for sponsoring the Drywall Podcast in the month of November. Maybe you've been living under a rock, or you just aren't aware of what CSR is. Well, here's a quick overview. CSR is the premier retailer of drywall products and supplies throughout Canada and beyond. They have 2 locations in Ontario, in Vaughan, and one in Barrie, Ontario, with their most recent being their Barrie location, which is focused on bringing you the most up-to-date and innovative tools on the market. Not to mention, their website has just about everything that you could ever dream of pertaining to drywall equipment and cutting-edge tools, while also being super easy to navigate. I know because I bought stuff there, and they pride themselves in their reliable and expedient delivery. If you are on Instagram or Facebook, maybe you've noticed some amazing deals happening from some of your favorite social media finishers, like, but not limited to, Allison and Kayla Gilbert with Gilbert Taping, Sean Ramsden with Brawley's Dad Construction, Phil with PRC Taping, Lydia of Drywall Shorty, Ahmed, T-Mac, Daniel Moody, and a host of others. Head over to their Instagram pages and follow these guys and find out how to get huge savings during the month of November just by liking their pages. They have deals and giveaways running right now, so don't wait. Also, they're cool people. I know a lot of them, and I'm proud to call them friends, and they also provide amazing content if you don't know. Lastly, stay tuned for more information about the CSR Black Friday event happening November 22nd, where you'll meet some of these badasses in person. Oh, and that one guy that owns Fresco Harmony, I forget his name, might be there in person. Come play in the mud, and I'll be giving away free stuff too. One thing is for sure, this event is going to be a ton of fun, and I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you in person or seeing you again if we've already met. But for now, James Weihoneg out of Brisbane, Australia, with Morph Sanding Solutions, coming to you on the 115th episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's find out about these sanders. I always enjoy a good lighting or sound tip, because it's not like we should all take like a course in audio digital marketing. If you're gonna sell something, you should take a video course and learn how to do it. We just kind of wing it.
I was gonna say that's my two specialties.
Right.
Audio online. Yeah.
Right. We're gonna get it. Don't jump the gun. We're gonna get into it. And you have an amazing mustache too. So you have several talents. How old are you?
I'm 31.
31 years young. You're just a baby. Morph Sanding Solutions. James Weihoneg.
Yeah. That's probably the most accurate I've ever heard someone say my name.
Oh my goodness. Weihoneg. Well, how do you say it? Say it for me really quick.
Weihoneg.
Weihoneg.
Or it's if you were to pronounce it like in German, it would be Weihoneg. But
okay,
I'm not sure. I can't pronounce it properly in German. Yeah.
Okay. So the W makes sort of a V sound. It's German.
Yep.
Okay. What are you drinking over there?
I'm drinking a Cooper's Sparkling Ale.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Do you like coffee?
Yeah. I'm actually also drinking a coffee.
You're drinking a coffee too. Okay. And you are from Australia. Where in Australia?
Brisbane, mate. So that's in Queensland.
I'm already enjoying this conversation, and we haven't even gotten started. I'm excited. I forget what happened. Did you reach out to me?
I've actually been following you for years.
Shut the fuck
But not on Morph Sanding. I followed you on Oz Sanding and then my Magic Rendering page.
Okay. Say that again. So you have two pages?
Well, I had Magic Rendering, but that's been acquired. But Oz Sanding, which is my sanding page.
Magic Rendering?
Yeah, so Magic Rendering, that's like exterior plastering, and so we used to do a lot of stuff like Venetian plastering, which is kind of like your fresh coat harmony.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
You said it got acquired. Somebody bought your page?
So they didn't buy it. I went into business with a friend, and it's sort of just like it's just got complicated when he moved, and I wanted to move back over to sanding, as it was just more my preference, and moved back over to that, and he sort of acquired and took over the company from there.
Okay. I was telling James that we in America, maybe in Canada too, like you have a division of drywall or plastering, as you call it, that's just sanding.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
They got like the expert sanders come in and they just give you a bunch of money. And they're like, we don't want to deal with the sanding. You sand, and that's what you do, right?
Yeah, it's funny. So basically, we get the work because no one wants to sand, and I completely
No,
understand.
no, I
It's
love it.
it's
I love it already.
yeah, sanding sucks,
Yeah.
but I'm loopy, so I love it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
like it.
I like the freedom because when you do plastering, you've got to acquire your work from a builder, and then you're dealing with the builder, and they can sort of control where you go. So, um, you'll be constantly asking, mate, do you have work? Do you have work? And maybe it's a bit slow, but they won't let you know because then you'll go to another builder. Whereas with me, I'm dealing with plasterers directly, so I have full control over the work I do, and because I'm working for about 30 different plasterers, but I do 5 plasterers regular every single week. And that just gives me the ability to sort of just go where I like. It gives me the ability to arrange and put all my work in one area so I can just stand all the houses. Like I can stand a bunch of houses in one street because
Okay.
I'll allocate my main plasters to one area, and it just works a lot better for me.
Okay. Okay. But more importantly, you said you've been following me for a year. Let's talk about that.
Probably more, a year and 2 months or something like that. So that I was standing, I was just following everyone, and I seen you, and I was like, "That's interesting." And I honestly haven't watched too many of the YouTube videos. I sort of just watch like snippets on Instagram, just because
Yeah.
like long video, or I'll chuck something on the car. I was just
Yeah.
watching the one from Brendan from Shaw Pro, and that was really cool because Shaw Pro stilts, and like I don't own a pair. I've tried to get a pair here, but it's expensive to import into Australia. But my friend has a pair, and I tried them on, and they're the best stilts ever. So I was like super
Oh,
keen
shut
just
the
to
fuck up, dude. I'll
hear
talk
the
to
story.
Brandon. We're gonna get you a pair of stilts, dude. I'll talk to Brandon. I'll be like, we got a boy in Australia that loves Surf Pro. Let's get him a set of stilts.
Man, if you could do that, that would be absolutely legendary. But
All
I was
right.
listening to
Well,
his story, and that was
yeah.
interesting.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was talking about how his mum did the marketing for Boeing or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild,
It
man.
was, and I mean, I wanted to dive in deeper to some of the various areas, but his story was so thick, and I couldn't chop through the story quick enough, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I definitely feel that. Yeah,
but
I
I
did
think
notice that.
people in the industry, in the drywall industry, really liked his story because he was attached to All Pro or All Wall, and like he was getting these websites going, this commerce e-commerce
Yeah,
sites going early on, like before people were even doing e-commerce. I gathered he's very good with computers. um,
yeah, man.
he's a
I'd
whiz.
love, I'd love to speak to him honestly, just to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
like advice. Is
sure.
All Pro like wallboard? So over here we got wallboard
Yeah, I mean,
tools.
from the story, they were a small shop out of Seattle, and they grew because of they started doing e-commerce, and they grew out of that. Brandon developed relationships with a lot of the ballers, you know, and then he knew Aaron and Elliott from Columbia Tools from way back in the day. It's
Mm,
just fascinating. It's fascinating when you just start dissecting like these stories or these individuals
mm,
from the industry, how small our industry really is, you
mm.
know, and how everybody's sort of interconnected, you know.
It's so cool. I'm fascinated with marketing and jumping on the Columbia Tools. Their marketing is unreal. Like
Mhm.
they're what I would call the new age because you've got like things like
Yeah.
Wallboard and All Pro, but then you've got Columbia, and they really appeal to that that sort of next generation of marketing where it's not just about the tool, it's about the fact that the content is so interesting to watch that you'll just watch it, not just to buy something, just because you're getting to know all these characters, these really interesting individuals, and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, it's not just a tool company, it's a brand, and that's fascinating.
Yeah. Smart.
What do you like about marketing?
What do I like
What do you like?
about marketing?
Yeah. Yeah, like what's your
The challenge,
yeah,
the
yeah,
and more specifically the creative challenge. So I'm an artist. Like that piece,
yeah.
I made that art piece there behind
That's
me.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
that's cool.
interesting. Elmer's
That's how
glue,
you
and
got okay.
that's actually on a piece of drywall, that art piece.
That's
And then
awesome.
it's finished with colored mud and Elmer's glue and epoxy. So I created
That's cool.
art. I have an intrinsic creative need. So I'm the type of person, like most artists, that I need to constantly be creating. I to be fulfilled in life. So the podcast does that. I get to write, I get to edit, I get to do intros and outros. I learn about sound. I get to edit on iMovie, which is very creative. All of those are creative things. So it's not necessarily making art, but it's a very good question. I think that if I wasn't developing a product and doing everything that I'm doing with Fresco Harmony, I would be in marketing, like just straight up. Because I enjoy it that much. Because mostly
Like
because
you,
it fills this creative need.
yeah, you'd be a good marketer. So you're saying that you really enjoy creating. I completely
Yes.
understand that. Create
It
being a creator, it's I mean, us blokes can't give like yeah, so it's like the only like it's like our form of creation is like designing and like I understand that like with the manufacturing of
yeah.
everything. So like design these and I
Yeah.
do the animation. I've done all that, so I completely
Cool.
understand where you
Yeah.
with that.
And
Yeah,
it's not just the design of a product, it which also fills that creative need. It's like, yeah, everything else, coming up with new colors, coming up with color names, photographing the color, talking about light. Like I didn't know, I know light's important and
yeah,
I know sound's important. The our audio, what we're talking about is paramount. Like the
yeah,
sound, these
exactly.
are cheap headphones. This is a cheap uh, speaker. I could have better equipment, but that's not important. Like what's important is that you create the content and that that my interview with you is good
Hmm.
and good enough that people will listen.
Your microphone's actually not really a bad microphone. What you do got to do is just got to create a gate, and so I can like hear this popping, and basically that's like the microphone hearing the sound, and it's sort of like switching on. But you can actually create a range where, as the sound comes in, you can control where it starts hearing the sound and where it stops hearing the sound, and that can tune out all your outdoor noise and do all that, etc. Your phone is really intelligent, so it does all that, but a computer is a lot gives you a lot more freedom. So
Oh,
if you
okay.
go, yeah, you can actually change that. If you chat on like a 5 minute YouTube tutorial, you can have that thing where instead of sounding light, you can add a lot of bravado and just like deep
Yeah, yeah.
tones, which create more engagement.
When I edit,
Especially,
I always put it on loudness. Like I always like
yeah,
I'll adjust it to like
mm,
123%. So I do a lot in post with the sound.
I noticed definitely, definitely. Yeah,
But somebody like you will notice most people kind of not. I want it to, so when I listen in my car, I don't want to have to turn it all the way up. I want it to be
yeah,
loud so that people can
yeah,
hear it,
yeah.
especially on the job site if they have a shitty radio or something. I want them to be able to hear it without having to crank it.
And it's like it's alive. It's kind of like when people listen to records, you know,
Yeah,
you know.
I was gonna say, I just started listening to records, and I have a friend who specializes in old equipment. He refurbishes like 1960s receivers. And so, and not only just the receiver, but he collects the records from like, the old Pink Floyd, like from the 70s, like the OG. records so
Yeah,
that now,
that's
so my receivers from 1960s and then my speakers are both from 1960s. I have like a 1980s Sony turntable, but then I have all these old records. So when you play them on this old receiver, you get this sound that's totally authentic. And it's like, it blew me away. And I paid a little
that's
bit. I
so
think I
good.
paid like 700 for this old receiver that's refurbished, worth every penny. Like blew my
Oh,
mind.
that's so cool. That's so cool.
Very cool. We could
Yeah.
talk about this stuff for a long time, but I really want to get into who James Weihoneg is and like this morph sanding solutions. Why the hell did you feel the need to come up with this sander? Let's talk a little bit about your history in the plastering. We'll call it plastering just for the sake of that's what you guys call it in Australia. This plastering world. How are you first generation? Are you second generation in this world?
I'm first generation as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
How did you find it?
Well, so I grew up in a small town, and the only work there really was working at your IGA or mowing lawns. And I started like as a young kid, like I think I started working when I was about 13. And so I started a lawn mowing business, and I met a friend, and he introduced me into drywall sanding. And I started sanding. I remember I think I was 15 at the time. I just remember thinking this sucks, dust in my eyes and everything. And so I left that for about a year, and actually, sorry, much greater than a year. And I started working in factories. I worked doing injection molds, so like doing injection molds for your downpipes and drainage systems. So I got really familiar with like materials like ABS and ASA,
Oh,
and
okay.
I worked there for years, and then um, I developed a passion for graphic design and photo editing and video editing, and found marketing. I started off marketing for music events, for like alternative bands and stuff. And I got into that for a few years, and I met my partner. And at the time, I just really wasn't earning a lot of money, and I just really wanted to impress this girl.
Yeah.
She was like awesome. We've been together for 10 years almost now. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to impress her. And I'm like, and if I don't get my shit together, I'm gonna lose this girl. So I went, fuck it. I'm gonna contact my mate and get back into sanding and just suck it up. And then like I end up sanding for his old boss. And I'm like, man, this guy's a tosser. And and
Wait.
I went
What was he?
a tosser,
What is that?
tosser.
What a tosser.
Means no woman would ever be able to handle him because he's such a tosser, so he just tosses himself off.
He's a jack off.
Yeah, jack off, exactly. That's the one. Same thing, yeah.
Okay, he's a tosser. All right, cool. I like it.
Yeah. So and I went screw this, and I left and started sanding on my own in about 3 months. Ruined a bunch of definitely ruined a bunch of jobs. But
Okay.
for this very understanding company and called EA and S, and they just basically helped me become a good sander. And then I eventually went off and started contracting on my own, and I never left it because I couldn't find anything that had as good of an income. But I continued
Right.
my passion with marketing through different projects, etc. I
Because if you left, you would lose your chick. She would leave you because you wouldn't be making the money.
Yeah, look, like she's definitely not a gold digger. She's an accountant. She's an accountant.
Okay.
Yeah, she makes a lot of money, but she would leave me because she wants someone who's equally as successful as her. And that just gave me the motivation because before I didn't really, my motivation was art. I really enjoyed creating and I didn't care if
Okay.
I had money. And
Yeah.
that's where I learned everything. And then during COVID, when COVID happened, um, I was I was still standing, but just not being around people and the lockdowns. So we fully locked down here in Australia. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they wouldn't let you outside unless you were a professional, basically, like where you were in need. It was really like you could go out to do grocery shopping, but if you're walking through the park, a cop would come up to you and be like, "Why are you out here?" It's just so crazy. So you didn't see anyone. So I looked for I just really wanted some connection. So I started like NFTs blew up. And I'm like, what is this? And it was art and it was a way to make money through crypto and
Right.
art. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I'm not the best artist, but I can appreciate art and I want to help other people get into that. And I
Yeah.
found this platform called VV. I've got like a sign up there of the logo and everything. But yeah, I found this platform called VV, and it was created by the guy who brought Pokemon into to the rest of the world because
Okay.
it was originally in Japan called Pocket Monster. And I found them when they were just starting up, and I got into promoting them. So I got to meet all these Marvel artists and stuff like that, and work on crypto projects. And it was really cool. And I worked on this project marketing for this fella named Owu, who built a dancing school in Uganda. And 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 in 2 days, we generated $5 million for this dance company. And I was just working on marketing that through my YouTube account, and that was just a YouTube account promoting like different NFTs and stuff. But and that's basically where I learned how to do all this marketing. But there was never a product. Like I never created anything I thought really had any value. But just in seeing, I sort of, I was listening to podcasts, etc.
But
And this guy,
you wanted to create something. You were like, I don't want to, but was it the NFTs that inspired you to want to like create something for yourself?
it really just ignited that fire back inside of me where I really enjoyed creating. Yeah, I thought, what if I get an injection molds? And the problem is to set up an injection mold is $30,000. Like I worked in this factory. It's a big lump of CNC metal, and then you need the machine, which like it's got different variations. There's you've got like this thousand, and and that's basically what injects the ABS into the mold. I went,
Okay.
I and I knew about 3D printing, but I always thought 3D printing is weak because I'd seen old 3D printers. But then I started looking into it and I've seen these guys making guns and stuff. You might want to blurb that out. YouTube might fucking shut
No,
it
I
down. Yeah,
think
but
I've seen those too, where like guns that you can put together real easily.
yeah, but they 3D print actual like automatic rifles, etc., handguns, and they can withstand shooting. And I was like,
Crazy.
okay. So I started researching into that, and Um, none of my stuff could withstand that. It's that those materials get quite expensive, but I got into experimenting, manufacturing different with different materials, and I'm like, oh man, this is actually really strong. Like I was saying, 2,000 meters between 1,000 2,000 meters a day. That would be potentially around. I'm thinking for you around around 2,500 to 3,500 meters a day. So
Okay.
I was doing about that many meters a day sending, um, and really testing them, and they were really strong. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is definitely something I could sell. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to build a website and everything, and it's been crazy. I've actually got a piece here to show you sort of what it looks internally inside. So you've got this stuff called infill, and basically, so you can make it
That's
solid,
cool.
but the problem is when you make it solid, you don't have that flex. It can just crack, and it also takes longer.
Ah,
So this is running at a 50% infill, and then I've got this hexagonal pattern on the wings, which basically makes the wings a solid infill. So you've got that flex.
that's really smart. I like it's lightweight. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
super light. It's super lightweight, which is cool when you're holding a sander for 3,000 meters a day.
Yeah, well, when it's heavy, what ends up happening is it'll flop around a lot, and if it's too large, it'll flop around. So I made this roughly the size of two Trimtex blocks. And when you fold it together, it's about one Trimtex block, and that gives you the
Okay.
ability to go through the internal. But then once the internal is done through the middle with the apex, like I always machine the internals. It's too much work if you didn't machine them, but I'll machine it and then I'll go through the middle, and then any edges, I'll flick it to the side like a block, bang. It's like a block on a stick. And then I run through with the
Yeah.
light at the end, just check for lift offs, etc. But this one's actually one of the older prototypes, and this was too sharp. This was just an experimenting process. I
Sure.
just didn't want to cut up a new one. But this is the newer model, and
Yeah.
I actually had a lot of
Wait a second.
hiccups
Wait,
along.
hold it up. Hold it up. Maybe we could look at each other through. Yeah, there it is. There it is. That's the advertising shot there. And if you're listening, so James sent me a couple of sanders. So I had a couple of sanders here. I don't do a lot of actual drywall sanding, but this is a very interesting idea. I do know drywallers that I could give it to, but I'm almost hesitant to bring it to CSR because and let a bunch of drywallers check this out and see what they think. It'd be very interesting to see what other drywallers think of this design. So,
The biggest hiccup.
sorry. If you're listening, you can watch this episode on YouTube, and you can see what we're talking about because James has the old model, and then I also have a couple sanders here. You can just
Mm,
check it. You can view this is the benefit in watching interview versus listening. You can
mm.
sort of see what we're talking about a little more. Sorry, go ahead.
Is one of the things is I'll have to send you some more tips if you're showing people. I'll send you out an express package, but one of the hiccups that happens when manufacturing is sometimes there's flaws. And the biggest thing was I wanted to create
This
something.
this
Yeah,
guy.
exactly. Exactly. And
So
so one
did
of the biggest things is this is made out of an ASA. And the reason being is if you leave this in a car, if you've got something that's um, if you've got something that's more flexible, that flexibility generally comes from the fact that it has a low melting temperature. So with ASA, you could leave this in a car and this won't start melting till um, I think it's around 300 degrees Fahrenheit.
okay.
So so it won't start melting and warping. But the thing is creating tips out of that being it being so rigid actually creates a weakness. It's not as flexible. Now, so when it's on here, there isn't any braking, it flexes. And this was a testing flaw like that. I never had any issues. But then once you
Why is
shift
it
things,
why is it so important to have that flex on the tip? This might be a stupid question, but you have two different points that flex. You have this point here. So it's like a
mm,
wing. It's a wing that gives like where I can kind of get it because I can think about pushing this against the wall. It gives you an added pressure gauge, if you will. But what is the
mm.
purpose of the tip on the end? That's another point for pressure. What is the point of that?
Well, first I'll talk about the outside. So the outside here,
Yeah.
these flaps here are 90 degrees, and then these underneath are an acute angle.
Okay.
No wall, no internal is perfect.
Right.
due to
Okay.
frames. And so this basically flexes to allow you to get into the more acute internals, and it
Uh,
also allows the sandpaper to float more, which stops you from over sanding and leaving scratches. Now,
right.
this tip here floats, and the reason why it floats is because you need it to move and follow the internal. So as this is going through the internal, this tip needs to move to stop the
Okay.
paper from stirring up and move up and down to conform to the imperfections of that internal to give you a really sharp apex. That basically does what you would do if you were to get a block and put it into the internal and follow it, because you got to be able to follow that internal with your hand, and you couldn't do that with an internal sander. But this basically does all the work for you, and that's just
I have to stop. I just have to stop you because I'm very critical of ideas and products and things like that. I mean, naturally, I'm a product developer. This is so smart, and it reminds me a little bit about of the I saw at AWCI they had a glazing head that had flex to it as well. That had
I've
some.
seen them. I've seen them. Yeah.
They're pretty neat, pretty neat. That they were conformed to the corner, and they were really priding themselves on that glazing head going into the corner, or But just off the cuff, it's very impressive the engineering that went into this. And you don't have any type of an engineering degree. This is all just maybe prototypes that you threw together and you were like, that would work better, that would work better. And you've been sanding, just doing nothing but sanding for 10 years. So you've had time to really think about these ideas.
Yeah. Well, sanding is it doesn't use much mental exercises.
Right.
So it gives you a lot of time to think. But
Right.
before it escapes me, I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about this. So this is
Yeah.
carbon fiber infused tip. But so in this, it's perfect. In the tips, it's not. For me, it was fine. It would last me, but I didn't take into consideration during shipping. It gets micro fractures through it because they're throwing stuff, boxes are landing on top, and it's just getting shaken around. But so it's not too bad, but once it gets those micro fractures, it just breaks. Now,
Okay.
these are created to be disposable because due to the nature of flexing, it will eventually lose that memory, but not this disposable. But now, with these new tips that I've created, which I'm actually sending out to anyone who's bought a morph, you just got to contact me. I'll
Okay.
send you a pack of 5 tips. And
It's an upgrade to your
oh,
design.
it's completely different. One of these will get you, man, oh, one of these lasts me a week, and I'm sanding a lot. One of these
Okay.
lasts me a week. So for a plasterer, I think one of these has got to last you months. And if you were to break it, it would be more just from sheer force. But the thing is every morph comes with two, and then you can buy the packs as well. And they're reasonably cheap for what they are, considering with a piece of sandpaper on the morph and the tips. One of these pieces of sandpaper for me gets me a day of sanding, which is 3 to 4 houses. So
Okay.
3 to 4 houses, one piece of paper will last me. But if you were to go into a finer grit, you might only get 2 houses. But it's a lot more cost effective than, let's say, a trim text block. So it ends up being very cheap. You're saving in materials, but the materials were never that expensive in the first place for sanding. But yeah, but
So
it's that.
a real simple question, right off the cuff. Was there any part of you that wanted to take this idea to Trimtex, or a sanding company? Did you try to do that? I know it's a really difficult market to get new ideas going in, as we discussed offline. Uh,
Yeah.
can you talk to that at all, or you like the idea of just pushing the product yourself?
Well, I know that. I had the capability market. For example, like with magic rendering, um, I created leads for magic rendering of videos. My top viewed video is 1.5 million views, and then the next
Yeah.
one's around 800,000. The next one's around 300,000. And the thing is I constantly get calls from that, which I'm redirecting to my partner because,
Right.
you know, but and I just knew I could get that work. But the thing is I've sort of tried that with Oz sanding, but I didn't really have any motivation because there was nothing that I wasn't making any extra money out of doing that. But I thought, well, if I applied this to the sanding, I would be fine. But like I did go into a couple of shops, but no one took it seriously, and I really
Right.
learned fast. Yeah, and I learned really fast that a lot of these guys in shops aren't actually even tradesmen. I'm talking to them and
Right.
they're going blank-eyed looking through me. And I'm like, I'm talking to a person who's worked in shops their whole life, and I'm trying to sell them a product and say, like, you know, this thing does a really good job. Sometimes you're gonna miss a lift off, which you got to hit with a block. But it's about the fact that you're not bending over, hurting your back, and reaching out high. I've got a 60-year-old bloke who's out there sanding his own work again, right? Because Sanders kept letting him down. I couldn't do his work because he's on the north side, and now he's using one of these, and he's like, "Mate, I'm 60 years old, and you got me sanding yet again. This is unreal." So it's like the fact that standing is really hard on the body. Like this allows you to not put all that stress on the body. So I knew there was value in this. I knew there was value. I knew this would sell, and
Okay.
then I sold some on the Facebook page. The word got out, and so far, I've sold almost $10,000 in units this month. So it's
That's
popped off.
phenomenal. Yeah. So
Yeah, like
you don't need to go to a company or something to try to market it. I mean, it's really brilliant. Like you could almost get a job just with any one of these companies, it seems like. And I'm not jumping the gun here
I,
as just a
I'd
market.
love to.
Like you
Yeah,
would.
I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be cool. But it like
Well, why
honestly,
wouldn't you try to get a job marketing with one of these companies, Columbia or Trimtex or USG?
the well, I've got no credentials. I've taught myself,
Okay,
and
okay.
the biggest thing for me was to be able to see, like I had no issue getting working on crypto projects, crypto, integrating crypto in a website so people could use fiat currency to buy directly with Ethereum. So I was integrating that, and I worked with that, and I had no issue getting that kind of work. Well, a lot of it was free, unpaid sort of work because it was such a new thing for exposure, or they pay you in crypto. Like I realized that no one's going to believe me unless I've done it in this industry. And this was just an exercise to sort of break through. But it's
Okay.
doing so well that I think more standing solutions is going to be a thing. Like I've released other products. Like I've just released this product and I've already sold 20 of these. And so I've already sold
How long has the corner tool been out?
5 or 6 weeks. I've
$10,000.
sold, yeah, in that with which is pretty good considering. But
That's fantastic.
um,
10,000
it's
5 or 6 weeks. You sold 10,000 of these. $10,000 worth.
yeah, so around 150 of those units.
Units.
So it,
That's fantastic. I mean, my first year, I think I did 500 in sales. Zero, I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't.
right.
It's challenging to develop a product. Like you have a lot of very dynamic skill sets, which enables you, if you have a good product, it'll sell.
Mm,
That's an asset. I mean, being able to come up with a
mm,
product, being able to make the product, being able to sell the product. make the website. Those are all really dynamic skill sets. Like it's very impressive.
Well, working on crypto projects, you have to have a lot of skills because they can't afford, with a small team, to have people who would have very specific skills. They just need a bunch of people who are good at a multitude of things because they just don't have the money, and they have to sort of
Yeah. Okay.
take advantage of people who just want a foot in the door.
Yeah. Well,
But
and I think that's smart though. Like if you can't sell a product,
yeah,
like like people will get investment dollars. I see all these people, like you get all this investment, and then a lot of
yeah.
lot of products don't make it because they didn't take the time to figure out if it would sell or not. And a lot of products
Mhm.
won't sell. You have to vet them, or you have to find the market. And
Well,
drywall is a really difficult market. Like selling 10,000 in a new product in the drywall space, that blows my mind. Like I'm really impressed.
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up and I'm like, wow, what the hell just happened? Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, I keep thinking I wake up from a dream and I walk downstairs and I see my garage full of 3D printers and just morph sanders everywhere, and then you know, bloody tickets on the floor because I've got all these orders. So it's a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Okay.
But
Sorry. Very quick. If somebody wants to get or check out a morph sander, let's fire off the website. Where do they go?
So it's www.morphsanding solutions. But if you type in morph sanding, I should pop up.
And you have a YouTube page, obviously, for morph sanders. And then
Yeah.
we're gonna get to that
Yeah.
we're gonna get to that behemoth that you're holding, but I want to talk about this other stuff first. It's really
That's all right. I'll shut this
really
down
cool.
here.
Monster or behemoth. So I saw a
Yeah.
video today. You were posted a video today, and you're like using the sander, and I was like, "Holy shit! Look at that thing! It's enormous."
Big black Santa.
Yeah, the big badass black sander. So okay, so that answers my question. James is smart. He designed a product. It's a really great product. And not only that, he is an extraordinary marketeer. He's good with all kinds of platforms, and he just started selling the shit. And he's like, wait a second, I don't need anybody else. We have this thing called the internet. I'm going to have a
Yeah.
little bit of a learning curve there, shipping it out of Australia. I would assume that's kind of a
Yeah.
killing.
Yeah.
That's kind of challenging for you, but screw it. If you're getting
Yeah.
10,000 in sales, you can afford the overhead of shipping. Um,
Kind of. I've spent $20,000 this month on just expanding.
okay, good. Well, you're obviously smart enough to know, like, okay, well, X amount you're gonna have to invest, and then you have a caveat that your partner is a fucking accountant. So that's almost bullshit. Like that kind of pisses me off. Pisses me off and makes me jealous a little bit. You got a built-in
She's
accountant.
she's
She's
not
like
she's not
she,
just
she's getting her
she's not
fingers in
just
there.
she's not just an accountant. She's an
Okay.
accountant. She's an accountant for a mining startup, and I'm a startup.
Fuck that. And hey, can we give a shout out? What's her name?
Liz.
Liz.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to get a ring. You need to put that shit on lockdown and marry her and just get it over with, lock it down, and then you guys just go and be millionaires.
Yeah, yeah. I basically told her I'm a very turbulent person. I've done a lot of startups that have failed. And I'm just like, I just don't want to put a ring on it and put you through the stress of everything if I just crash and burn, you know?
Right. Okay.
But
Well, we
I'm
should establish a number. Like what's the what how many units do we have to sell before we get Liz on lockdown?
Look, if I take this thing internationally and it starts selling internationally, it doesn't matter how many units. I think that's a green enough flag that I'll put
Okay.
a ring on
Okay. All right. Fair enough. You heard it here on the Drywall Podcast. International sales going through the roof. Okay, let's talk about the Bertha. Can we call it the Bertha?
it.
I just want, you know what? Anytime in my world that I have something that's really big, I call it the Bertha. Like, go get me I've got the little bench and then I got Bertha, like, the big ass bench. Like, like I mean, this is a big, like, an awesome name for this sander. Hold it up. I want to see this thing. And I mean, that's the idea is just, I'm going to make a big ass sander.
I've got to get a normal pole sander to sort of compare it. But so this is
Yeah.
17.5 inches long.
Okay.
And it's completely modular. So you can break it down into a smaller unit.
Shut the hell up. It's a transformer sander.
Yeah, and the thing about it is it's modular and it uses the best sandpaper in. I'm just going to pull this sandpaper back.
Can you send me one of those before I go to CSR? Before
100%, I'll get it out here.
Yeah. Because I want to show some people this. They're going to shit their pants and be like, "Where'd you get this thing?"
This is going to be my big product because people are going to be hesitant about this.
Right.
People know this will work because this uses the Trimtex Black Widow pads, the best sandpaper ever. Shout out to Trimtex. Whoever created this sandpaper, you need a raise because this is the best sandpaper for going over your joints I've ever tried.
Now, wait a second. You said shout out to Trimtex. So is Trimtex supplying your sandpaper?
No, they're not supplying it. I'm just buying it. I buy it and I put it on every sander because because in Australia, a lot of guys don't use this. They think it's expensive, but it lasts a long time. So it's not expensive. It actually ends up being cheaper. And because it's square, like your cornice isn't curved. You want something that's straight that can go up against it. You want to be able to go up into your internal corners. Why would you want a circle sander? Because you've got a circle sander, and what ends up happening is when you take away that curvature and you take it down to a square, it only ends up being a square like this big. So really, that's all the sanding real estate you have. So you're going over the joint like this. You just go along the joint, and then I've got a universal joint in here which houses 4 bearings. And what that basically allows you to do is control the sander like a steering wheel. And then you've got, and it fully articulates. And basically what that allows you to do is flick it to its side. And because you've got so much sanding real estate, you can cut back edges on joints. So you can go through it. Oh, I missed an edge, spin it, bang, hit that edge. And then you can fit into all the small places. You can fit into your niches. You can fit under your bulkheads. And that's just really the appeal of it. The thing is like no one's really made a big sander because to have a big sander,
off the cuff, like from a marketing standpoint, I'm like, okay, introducing the biggest fucking sander there's ever been.
Yeah, it literally is the biggest sander in the world. No one has made a pole sander.
Like, dude. Bigger is better. Bigger is better.
Hold up, wait a second. No.
That's not all. Actually, that's not all. We're also going to throw in.
Hold up. I lied. You can get expansion packs, and then you can make it the biggest sander in the world.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You don't need to adjust your screen. This is actually you're seeing it here first, the world's most giant sander. The kids, hide the kids.
I can make it as tall as myself.
You can make it as tall as yourself.
That's just a joke. I'll have to do a video with one like this, just because
Yeah,
it's funny.
because
But
you need like a bracket like for your handle. You need like a dual bracket where you have like two coming down into an adjustable handle where it's like and like just have like,
well,
or you have two people like have one person with one handle on one side. Well,
we go.
I guess you could put your handle unit in the center of all of the sanders, right?
Okay, so have a look at this. Can you see the Oz on that? Can you see
Yeah,
the scales? So I put
yeah.
it on the scales, and its own. So with
What's
all them, that's 13 pounds.
okay?
So it's not that heavy with all those, but with the three, it's light. I don't know
Yeah.
how much. With the three, it's
Well,
around 1.5 pounds.
this I don't want to say plastic. That's not right. Correct. This
It's technically a plastic, but it's carbon fiber infused ASA.
okay, it's very light. In other words, this angle sander that I'm holding it is very light that James sent me. I can only assume that the Monster Bertha is also very light. That looks like the perfect size there. Three of them together, that's just money. You like sweep through a
Yeah,
butt joint like two times, done.
yeah. And the thing is let's say you're doing Freshco Harmony or something, and you're like, okay, this client wants a smooth finish.
Yeah.
Now you can have more of these, and you can effectively just get a real. It's like using a screen. You could effectively just go along
Right.
it and get a smooth finish because you're touching so much surface that you're not getting divots from a small pole sander. But yeah,
Yeah.
this definitely is the money. If
Yeah,
I
that's
if
cool.
I went back into rendering, I would run five for doing floating. So when you float over to create that really smooth finish, I would switch this out for a sponge, or I would run these along the concrete and I would float with the pole and just get like a really nice finish there.
Okay. Very interesting. Wow. Like, yeah, that thing is. And do you have a working name for these different sand? So it's morph sanding is the umbrella, but do you have like specific names, a little yellow guy, or like, you were talking about the monster. I mean, is there any names you're kicking around with? Do you want to have individual names for these individual products? Like this I feel like needs a name too, other than tip.
The the name of this one, I've just called it the Morph Sander or Morph internal corner sander. It's Morph Sander just because it's just quick, easy, it sands and it morphs. It describes the name. Morph Sanding
Yeah.
Solutions describes the name of the company.
Yeah.
Drywall tools that morph to imperfect walls. Um, Now this is the Morphed Join Master. I
Okay.
just call it Join Master because, I mean, how can you not be a master of standing joins when effectively you just cover the whole joint and walk with it, you know?
Yeah. And just to give you guys that are listening an idea of what's going on here, James has effectively created a lightweight, largest sander on the market that we're seeing here for the first time. It's pretty cool. Uh, and not only is it the largest, but it can become also smaller unit. It looks like these individual pieces fit together. It's very cool. You'll be seeing more. If they want to find you on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, I assume it's Morph Sanding Solutions across the board, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's more standing solutions across the board. On YouTube, I don't have anything just yet, but I'm gonna start a series on there, potentially maybe a series on there where I just go through and just a lot of the work I do is fixing sanding work for other sanders have messed up on jobs where they've just undersanded stuff and not done the work. And I just go through and I fix up these jobs and just use the products to sort of showcase the difference in
Right.
the finish. how it can improve, and how it compares to, um, I'm not going to say which products, but how it compares to, your standard products that are out there. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, all these other guys that are trying to compete in the sanding world, they have been competing for years, but like all good product manufacturers in the drywall space, very little imagination and very little creative. You've got people like the
so
Black
true.
Widow,
The
like
the Black Widow is amazing. That
it's
Black Widow
yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool. That
It's
seems
small.
like a pretty cool. Yeah, it doesn't even. It's like a little sister. It's like a little sister to the big. That thing is
Yeah,
huge. And yeah, definitely shout out to Trim Techs. Those guys are ballers when it comes to products and trim for sure. And their
definitely.
sanding, everybody raves about the sanding sponges. So you're saying it has something to do with whatever frickin' sandpaper they have very good sandpaper. So somebody developed a sandpaper or something that they're selling that is superior.
Well, well, exactly. Like, so when you create something this big, you need to have a spongy sandpaper because it's covering so much real estate.
Yeah.
Because a joint is going to peak, and it
Yep.
just needs to be able to press in and still touch the edges.
Yeah.
Um, generally it won't peak, but it's gonna sort of peak a bit before you sand it. And this is, you definitely need that sponge. However, I do have one guy, and he uses Merca roll sandpaper, and he cuts it, rolls it across,
Okay.
and he uses that to sand his second coat.
Okay.
So you can do that, but for a final finish, I wouldn't use anything else but this. This paper is the best, and
Okay.
with this sander, I wouldn't use anything other than the super pads. So the
See,
reason
you
being,
have a name. You have a name for these. They're called the super pads. I like that.
well, they're actually not even my pads. So what I've
Right.
done is I've used your circle pads, and and then I just cut them down. And now
Okay.
while I could have created my own sandpaper, the one thing that annoyed me about products out there is everyone creates their own sandpaper, and you got to buy their sandpaper. I wanted something that people could choose what they wanted, and they could cut it down. But
Smart.
I recommend this paper. I include one with every sanding tool, so that they get to experience it under its max performance. But then they can
Right.
choose whatever sandpaper they want.
Yeah,
And
but
the
you
reason
could
being,
you could go to the company, right, and just order rolls of the shit if you want. Like they'd be stupid not to sell it to you.
yeah, I go through a lot of it. I go through a lot.
I'm talking
And
like I'm talking seriously, like talk to the company and get a big roll so that you're not wasting and you're cutting your pieces perfectly.
yeah, I'm wasting a lot. I'm wasting a lot with
Yeah.
this, and it's a pain. Like I've got a
I'm
big.
thinking 20 years from now, you're married to Liz, you got a whole truckload of these rolls coming in, man.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I'd imagine we're getting close to the end. So, do you mind if I show you a little bit of the manufacturing process real quick?
Uh yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Okay, bear with me. I'm gonna have to throw a mask on because toxic fumes.
Okay, no problem.
That's the printers, and then I've got more printers over here. I've got. I was going to chuck this off for a sec. This is what infill looks like in the big sander. So that's called an adaptive cubic. And basically what happens is as it gets towards the extremities, the triangles get smaller so that you can keep it light and hollow, but then strong near the vertices.
Right, right.
And here's the new tips printing in here. And over here, I'm just doing a bit of a Halloween special for someone. Someone's ordered a Deadpool Pikachu.
Cool.
Well, if he wants anything, I can make it for him.
A Deadpool Pikachu mask would be awesome, but you certainly don't have
Yeah,
to. Screw him. I want a morph. I want a morph hat.
well, I'll send you one. I've got more hats coming in. I'll send you a hat when I send this big sander out, and I'll
Yeah,
send you. What I'll do is I'll send
tips.
a couple more morphs, and I'll send a bunch of tips. That way you can actually just give them out. So
Yeah,
if someone's really keen on one, just give it to them, and that way they can test it out and be like, oh, wow, or they can even say, oh, actually, with our system, it doesn't really work that good. And that's how I get to test things. I've
right.
been sending them. I've sent them to people in Canada. I've sent them to people in America. Unfortunately, I've just got to send more tips out. This is
Yeah,
actually expensive. This was expensive, but the thing is the way I look at it is people make mistakes as long as you're willing to, even if it puts you into debt or whatever, to make sure you look after your customers. So like all the
right.
customers got new tips. If you're willing to do that, people go will forgive you
Dude,
and go, well,
you're
you know,
you're 6 weeks in, man. It's not you're like just starting. So I'm beyond impressed, James. It's very inspiring, like just who you are, what you do. You and Brandon would have a fantastic conversation. I'd love to talk to you more about marketing, YouTube, like my product. I don't know if you did any digging into Fresco Harmony.
I did.
It's an interesting
It's
idea.
I was showing my partner, and it's beautiful. She was like, "That's amazing." The
Yeah,
thing you could break into Australia very easily. I'm telling you, and the reason why is because in Australia there's only one supplier that supplies all our Venetian plaster, and it's
yeah.
I actually got them up. I've got them up on the screen because I wanted to show you. So it's these guys, and they do all the skills. So there are painting companies that do it, but these are the guys who have the
Well, and
know-how.
this not only it's not about like a competitor, but this is a fraction of the price, man. And it's like it's
That
so much
is so
easier.
expensive.
It's
That
so
stuff
easier.
for that stuff for one tub is $300.
Yeah, so here's what's gonna happen, dude. I'm just gonna send you a pallet of shit and you just go sell it.
Well, actually, I know some Venetian plasterers. I used to work for Brisbane Rendering. They do all the Venetian. I know a guy who only does Venetian. He flies all around Australia and does that. I'll show him your products
Cool.
because at the moment they're using Dulux,
Okay.
Dulux like micro cement,
Yeah.
and so they're using that. So I'm
The
sure they'd love
only
to try.
I get the only I'll get criticism from people because it's not plaster. And so it's not as strong, but plaster still gets damaged too, and it's much more challenging to fix. So it's kind of a different conversation around walls and like why not use joint compound? But softness has its advantages. You'll appreciate like the malleability. So I can still manipulate corner before the sealer goes on. I can, like where plaster is so rigid that it'll crack. It, it's impossible to work with after you've gotten it on the wall. You have to get it perfect, and then you can't manipulate it like you can with mud. You know.
It's stronger than paint. And then you've got to look at the fact that with a lot of these micro cements, if they're not done properly and there's a very extensive
Right.
process, it will be like these tips. Sure, it's hard and strong, but the wall moves and it cracks. So I'd
Exactly.
much rather something that's flexible,
Flexible,
you know.
and if I have to redo a wall 2 years from now, I just spin up a batch and redo the wall. No problem. Perfect color.
The, the biggest thing would be if you've got a person buying a house and it comes with it, they could get a little kit that fixes it, and you could just say, "Look, you can fix it yourself." Bang. Or you can get just a average tradesman to come in and give it this to them, and they'll have no problems fixing it. And because that tradesman gets it and they try it out and they're fixing it, they're like, actually, I really like this stuff. I might use this on another job.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do that. Like I can leave a little tub with somebody. It'll last for a little while, but it might go bad.
Mm.
Some people
Maybe a
want that.
voucher.
I'll do a little bit of like touch-ups for them, but I always tell them just if you have any issues or anything, let me know. Don't worry about the walls. They're going to get beat up. The corners are going to get hit. Just use them, love them. We can fix them in the future. I'll come in for an hourly rate and just fix them. And so it's kind of a
Mm.
built-in market. And I mean, just like normal walls, corners are going to get beat up if they're painted and finished.
Mm.
So it's an interesting conversation because there's really nothing on the market for specialty
Mm.
walls that's fast and easy and affordable. So,
Well,
man, I've been selling it for a long time,
yeah. Well, if you were here in Australia, I myself, and also know plenty of people who can easily fix it. So if people were using it here, they'd have no problems finding people who could fix it. Plus, there's a lot of actually new talented Venetian plasterers who have popped up, um, but it's still so new. It's still there's not very many people doing it. It's so new that you
Right.
when something is so new and niche
Yeah.
that you just grow with it. It's kind of like your friend Brendan, who started really early on the internet. When it's
Yes.
new, there's no competition. Once everyone finds out about it, you're competing with all these people who already have a
Yep.
name. Sorry, I was just saying I'd started in Brisbane because there's not
Okay.
much here. Yeah, and then work from Brisbane into Melbourne because Melbourne is where all the art is and where
Yeah.
people really want
Well,
to a
you're
lot of
there.
old.
You're there too, so I'd have a buddy to come stay with and hang out. You
Yeah,
show
yeah,
me
for
around.
sure.
Show me
Yeah,
around. I'd love to go to
yeah, for
Australia.
sure. Oh, it's you love it. It's awesome here.
I was telling you,
It's
no, they call it blue water versus red water. Have you heard of that expression? And you'd be familiar with sharks, right? Like
oh
sharks.
yeah, yep.
So the
Yes.
sharks, if they're eating something, is red water. All the sharks come. So you want to be out in the
Yeah.
blue. You want to be in the blue water.
Oh, blue ocean strategy.
Yeah, blue
Yeah.
ocean. Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yep.
blue ocean strategy is interesting. What you do is you go from another market and then you penetrate into a new market. There was a wine company, which was Yellowtail wine or something, and basically they went from a rich market, which is what you've done with Venetian plastering, and they being able to give it to people more obtainably and then
Yes.
market it easier to understand. These guys over here, they make it sound so complicated. Oh, so complicated. You got to do this big
the
fucking
the
course for it.
companies, all the companies pride themselves in how much time it takes, how expensive it is, how complicated it is. And I'm always going in the other direction. No, no, no. This is easy. Any drywaller can do it, and it's super affordable. Like that strategy, I think is effective.
Mate, look, your biggest target, this is the difference between these guys. So they're a niche that they can go for like traders. The biggest market is your DIY market. If you can get onto doing DIY stuff, tag it DIY, make it ASMR really interesting to watch. They're like, whoa. And then you'd be like, it's so easy. Like you could actually do it.
Yep.
You could do it like that.
I agree.
That's where you're going to make the market because you're not targeting tradesmen, you're targeting everyone who is a homeowner who prides themselves in doing their own work. The difference between a tradesman and a homeowner, yeah, they're going to make mistakes. But the thing is that they can fix their mistakes, whatever. They understand that. But the biggest thing about a tradesman and a homeowner doing their own work with finishes, I'm not talking about structural, stay away from structural, but with finishes, is the fact that they're just not as fast and they can't make money. But if
Right,
they take,
right,
like I've shown friends, how to patch holes, and they've done it.
right.
It's taken them a long time. But if you can get into the DIY and really get into instructionals and showing people how to do that, and say, like, let's say you had someone, like, oh, I just did this feature wall behind my TV. It's
Hmm.
so beautiful. And I use this product. And you give that out to like DIY influencers. You go for like a micro influencer, someone with a small following but has really high retention. You target them, you give it to them for free. They're just happy to get free products, and then you say, "Look, I'll give you a code. for every sale you make like this percentage. They're just looking for a way to make money because at the moment they're doing free work, making videos. They just want a little way to make money. If they sell your product, they make money. So they'll do a wall. They'll be like, wow, this looks great. And then you'll have all the stay-at-home mums, or you have the DIYs who are like, I'm going to do that to my office. I'm going to do that. And it's a huge market. And the people love watching DIY videos.
It's true.
Like
it's true. Love the way your brain works, man. And fantastic advice, fantastic products. James Weihoneg. It should flow better. But out Brisbane, Australia. A pearl of wisdom that you could bestow on the drywall community, what would it be?
A pearl of wisdom? Look,
you've had a bunch of good pearls, but just something like and I stole this idea from somebody, but if you could put something on a billboard to tell all your fellow tradesmen, tradies in the industry, what would it be?
Okay, I've got two.
Okay.
Got to work together. Okay, I've got two. Stability is an illusion. Stability is an illusion. Chase your dreams, because when you're old, you're gonna regret not chasing them. You know, you're gonna think, fuck, I should have actually tried that. You know, I had so much to give, but I didn't. And if you're worried about losing that stability, it's an illusion. Nothing's stable. Nothing's definite. Look at what happened with COVID. Everyone, like, so many people lost their jobs. Stability is fake. You'll find stability if you're chasing something and putting all that work in. Stability will come. Now, the other thing is, look, people say love what you do. Like find something you love. I didn't love sanding when I started it. I think you can love everything. If you move out, I left to become a chef for a little bit because I love cooking. I did that, and then I realized that once you get used to anything, that love will depreciate, or you'll just get used to it, and it doesn't matter anymore. At the end of the day, you can learn to love whatever you do. If you're in the trade, you just got to look at the positives. It's all about the mindset. You can learn to love what you do, and when you love what you do that you have so much experience in, like, you should really stick with what you know, because you'll get better and you'll get better and you'll get better. And when you're really good at something and you're a master, that's when the money comes. And money creates stability. And with money, not only can you make your dreams come true, you can make all the people that you love around you. You can help those people around you, who might be struggling. But if you don't have that there, you're going to be like, oh, look, I can't do anything. And you're just going to make you feel sad, So, learn to love what you do. Stability is an illusion. Just go for it.
Love it.
That's yeah.
That's awesome. James, thank you so much for being on the Drywall Podcast today. What a fantastic episode. And I'll be looking for that stuff. I am excited to show some of the other dudes in the space that I know, some of the influential people, some of these products, because I think they're pretty fantastic, and you're fantastic. And so hopefully, too, you could come over and take a field trip over to the next AWCI show, and we can meet in person. Like, that would be a really great opportunity.
I'll write that down. AWCI.
Yeah. I'll tell you about it. Like, this Black Friday event at CSR would have been a good one too. It's November 22nd coming up. I might have that date wrong, but fantastic opportunity to meet a lot of really cool people in Canada. But there'll be a lot more. You've just begun. So I'm very excited to see your journey. We'll definitely have an episode 2 in in a while. We'll see, where you've gone. But yeah, thanks a lot, man. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me on, man. This is great.
Absolutely, sir. You have a good day. We'll talk soon.
No worries. Catch you, man. Bye.
Bye. huge shout out to James Weihoneg for being with us on the Drywall Podcast today. You, sir, are a badass, and I look forward to meeting you in the very near future. Huge shout out to CSR for sponsoring the Drywall Podcast in the month of November. Stay tuned for more information about the CSR Black Friday event happening November 22nd, where you will meet some amazing influencers, fellow tradespeople, and maybe Nick Harmon of Fresco Harmony in person. One thing is for sure, this event is going to be a ton of fun, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. If you don't know what CSR is, they are out of Canada. They are the premier retailer of drywall products and supplies throughout Canada and beyond. They have 2 locations in Ontario, one in Vaughan and one in Barrie, with their most recent location being Barrie, which is focused on bringing you the most up-to-date and innovative tools on the market. Not to mention, their website has just about everything you could dream of under the sun pertaining to drywall equipment and cutting-edge tools, while also being super easy to navigate. And they also pride themselves on their reliable and expedient delivery. Check them out at csrbuilding.com today. Thank you so much for joining me on the Drywall Podcast today. If you have questions about the show, if you want to be on the show, if you have questions for me or anything, you can contact me at info@frescoharmony.com. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and remember, keep drywalling.